To leave behind a work that I think makes the world a better place is a big gift and was a huge responsibility for me, and so I'm grateful for that.
You don't do shit like that.
You ain't Bruce Lee.
You stop kicking Woodstock.
Is that Richie?
Yeah.
What the hell happened to you? Look at this freak. Nice outfit. Where'd you get it? Off the dead?
Hey, I thought vampires only came out at night.
Yeah, except on leap year.
I don't look at the work ever as intimidating. I mean, obviously there are people like Spike who you admire and you hope appreciate and feel that you live up to the task, because it is a director's movie. I mean, you know, you're inhabiting these characters for the overall film. So everybody there was just so wonderful and strong. It was so great to work with Leguizamo, and I remember feeling so grateful for it. It was a big coup also, because they had a lot of people who were far more established than I was as an actor at the time who were vying for that role. It was cool. You know, I grew up, you know, hanging out in East Village too, so even though that punk culture wasn't my culture, I'm pretty observant as a person. I kind of, and then I got to spend time down there.
You must get away at once. Where do you want me to go? Look at me. I'm not leaving. Gotta take my chances here.
That's your decision. But when they storm the flat, throw yourself out the window. Don't let them get you alive.
An actor's responsibility is to do what they can to inhabit the individual that they're playing. The more that an individual is feeling on screen, the more truth that should emanate. And, you know, there was just so much that was necessary. You can't act being emaciated, and that was really important to the storytelling. And there needed to be a transition. And it wasn't a tremendous amount of time to get to that point, so I had to do a starvation diet, and I went down to 129 pounds for that role, and then had to immediately gain it back because we shot in reverse chronology. I had to learn to play extended portions of Chopin's Nocturne and Ballade. I don't read music. I have an understanding of music and a love of music, but I don't read. And so I had to learn that through a very technical kind of muscle memory and appending what I had learned along the way. And interestingly enough, all of those things and many more of the research and the certain sacrifices I made in detaching from the rest of my things that I felt were distraction from that life really put me into that zone.
This film would not be possible without the blueprint provided by Władysław Szpilman, and this is a tribute to his survival. I
prepared myself to not win, but to just acknowledge the blessing of having been in that run. And the day of that, I felt a huge responsibility of at least feeling I'm prepared to say something, because the film was really about the repercussions of war. You know, we had just embarked on a war. I felt it would have been inappropriate for me not to acknowledge that. And in the event that I was acknowledged for my work in representing this past horrors of war, just to acknowledge it and to remind us what our responsibilities are collectively. It was a challenging time for me. That was the first role that I had done after the Academy Award. And so I had to make a decision at a time where I too was facing a great deal of scrutiny, obviously, to play a character that was probably far off the path of what the logical choice would be for an actor in my position at that time. And because I love his work, and my approach through the years in working with all of these interesting filmmakers that I've been blessed to work with, I've always I've pursued the role that spoke to me. If it spoke to me in a way and it had a degree of risk and it had a complexity that required me to learn something and was different from something that I had already done, those were the key symbols saying that you should proceed.
Actors travel the world, all they ever see is a mirror.
What I loved about Peter Jackson's King Kong was that this character, if you look at the original, it had such a superficial depiction of that character.
I guess you don't think much of women on ships, do you?
No, they're a nuisance.
He was a ship's first mate. He didn't have money. He definitely didn't really, in my opinion, seem like he really loved and longed for Anne. It was vastly improved and vastly more nuanced and more sensitive. And I thought it was a really brave thing on Peter's part, and Fran and Philippa, his partners. I was really appreciative of that, appreciative of the kind of work that they were doing and able to do. And it was also, it was at the time Universal's biggest movie. They had never invested that into one feature film. And Peter was creating massive studio by doing this. It was such an enormous undertaking. I've never seen anything like that.
I was his favorite. He told me to have blood all over him laying in the street right before he died. How is that supposed to make us feel?
Wes really creates a sense of family and his wonderful taste in friends as well as actors and creative collaborators. Wonderful, wonderful, discerning taste. Everybody's there for the right reasons. Everybody there really appreciates their involvement. And it's a very friendly and inclusive environment. And that's Wes is doing as well. And creates this communal experience where you come to dinner every night after work. Everybody's at dinner promptly, and we all sit together and we dine and we drink and we share all of our interesting lives. I feel like the vibe that he creates somehow is infused into the making of those movies. It emanates from everyone, and everyone feels part of this troupe. And they're magical and unique, and actors are very different from how you've seen them in other films, and every frame is indelibly identifiable as Wes Anderson's.
You made your point, right? Maybe just, we could just close up the outrage shop.
I love Succession. I love the writing. These actors are thriving in these roles, and it's great. It's great. It's vastly entertaining. I think it speaks to a lot of what's wrong in the world. And Adam's one of the creators of the Lakers show that I'm doing called Winning Time. They had pretty much just signed me up to play Pat Riley in that. And as I was trying to do my prep for that, they said, by the way, we have this bit on Succession, if you'd like. The writers and the creative team were really very good to me and gave me a lot of opportunity to make something special with that.
I think that you think that I'm some dipshit who had a lucky night at the casino, who acts all fancy, and then makes you eat rodents for my pleasure, right?